Rich, we'll get started here, and I just once again just appreciate you doing this. We want to tell the stories of Cacti. Um, we'll tell the stories of the past in order to continue the legacy that we have going. Um, and when I reached out to the group and you responded pretty quickly, I thought it was a perfect example of kind of where the Army is now, um, and you know, a potential of where these soldiers are at right now. So, if you want to just start there of when you were in Cacti and just kind of go through, what was it like in 2000, and then what was it like on 9/11 of 2001? We'll just start right there.
Okay, so two remarkably different environments, but it was actually an amazing transition between the two that, I think anybody looking back and having lived through 9/11 um, will remember where they were and what they were doing at that time. So that um, when I came in under uh, Colonel Bert Thompson. If he wanted me to resign my commission, become his driver, I would have. I mean, that man is absolutely a superhero. I still stay in contact with him periodically now that he's retired. But he really helped us navigate through that transition from pre to post 9/11. Um, at the time, it was we were training hard. I came in. I first thing I was an AS3, and when I was the assistant three, it was constant turn and burn into training. Everything was focused on making sure that we could fight, win, and come home. It was the full envelope of that. Um, Colonel Roy Wagner was the brigade commander, and tough as woodpecker lips. He was constantly pushing to make sure that anything that we were going to ask our soldiers to do, we were there with them, and he was the same. He set the climate where the everyone was always seen when we were out training. Everyone was seen at the things that were important to do, and it was a really good it was a good foothold for us to understand what really mattered as an officer, for us to be engaged with our soldiers at all times. Um, a lot of late nights, AS3. We had the sign up over on the wall. The XO put up there. It was a excerpt from, I think it was Ben Hur. You live to serve the ship. Row well and you shall live. Stop rowing and you will die. It's like, okay, that's a staff's job. Row
Well,
well.
yeah, that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed at all.
No, and that's okay, because whenever I got a chance to go down to Company Row, um, all of that really made a lot of sense. So, working in the staff, I was able to look at things from a system perspective and make certain that we can um, provide for the tip of the spear. It was just we were enablers. We were there to provide resource management, and that came to light. I guess one of the fun things that we had was we went to JRTC, and it was an amazing fight that we were having there. And I remember we were supposed to defend against a mechanized the no pen line was about to be uh, you know breached, and all of our assets had been completely taken down. And it came down to, we had like two platoons of combat strength still remaining at the point where I'm looking at the S3 actual and the commander actual were the ones running the fight on that radio inside the TOC. And then so I looked over at the S2. He grabbed the scouts had a sniper rifle, so he grabbed that. I grabbed a big old sledgehammer. We started walking out of the OC. It's like, where are you going? It's like, to do our part. And it is somewhat flippant and a little bit funny, but It was the climate. Do what you can. It said no pen, no penetration. Um, Now you fast forward. Um, Unbeknownst to me at the time, the assistant to the NCOIC over there actually, um, he ended up going down the company road before me, but he ended up being my first sergeant, Acuna, Pat Acuna. And so he went down there a couple months before me. And whenever I had an interview with Colonel Wagner before I would be allowed to go into command, he said, "Rich, how do you know what's important to me?" I'm a smartass. I say, "Sir, you'll tell me." And he goes, "No, yes, I will tell you, but that's not how you know. How you know is where you spend your time and where you spend your money. If I say taking care of soldiers is important, but I'm not willing to spend the money to make sure they're living in quality of life, then it's not important. If I say training them to fight, win, and come home, it's important, but you never see me at training, it's not important. I can say anything. Where I spend my time, where I spend my money. That's what I'm expecting of you." So when I went down to take over in Charlie, oh my gosh, it was everything that I had always imagined it would be and better. Um, the uh, the the men, the NCOs, they were titans. Um, some of them I stay in contact with this today, just because of the friendship, the camaraderie, and the ethos of um, work hard, play hard. We were a brotherhood. At the end of when we were in garrison, at the end of a garrison week, we would still have people hanging around outside. Just they could go downtown. Many people could go home because they were lived off post and that. They still just hung around because of burn some meat on the grill and have a little bit of fun because that's where the brotherhood was. So there was one day where I knew that we had it right because AK and I decided we were going to really invest in coming up with. It's still there today, from what I understand. We called it Legacy Hallway, which was the hallway coming in next to the training room back to the AK's office and my office. That hallway had all of the legacy items, the heraldry that was, from battles won from our Vietnam, forebears, and everything that had made Charlie Company it's what it was. We had adorned the walls with that. And there was one day where I'm in my office and I was writing up some paperwork, and I could hear a new team leader bringing in a new soldier, and he was sitting up there and he's like, "I want you to read all of these things. I want you to memorize these. There will be a quiz. I'll be back in 15 minutes," as he was going to get the next stuff for the arms draw or that. And that's when I look over at AK and I was like, "We've done it. It is now bigger than what we wanted it to be. It's now something that matters."
Yeah.
So the next thing we did, we went out and we had the battalion shirts, but we ended up getting the big Ace of Spades on the back because we wanted to celebrate. It's all about the ace. We went out and we created we minted these coins, the Ace of Spades coins, um, because we wanted it all about the ace. I wanted to make it was our legacy. It was what united us with our Vietnam forebears and what hopefully would go beyond us. Um, so I would do things like the actual death card. We ended up getting cartons of would send us the aces, and so I would if I wrote a 3 or a 4 on that, that would be a 3 or 4 day pass. So if you ended up getting an award that whenever you chose that you wanted to drop it, you walked in there, I signed it. Congratulations, you're going to pass. And so that was a reward. And like I would do things like we were training on we had a live fire, movement to contact live fire. And when they hit the LPOP, there were they had targets, 3 targets, but then when they close up and they take that they look at, there were 4 warning canteen on the fire. So that would logically make somebody say, "Well, I got 3. There were 4 here. Where'd the next guy go?" So that should tell them something more. So to get them to start paying more attention to that, I put a 3-day pass ace and I hid it under one of the canteens that was on the fire to make it so that as they start getting there, they would see the corner of it and oh my gosh, there it is. And little things like that. And you fast forward, I ended up having a room inspection one time where I walked in and one of these guys, he had successfully gotten 4 aces, and he took a framing class just so he could frame it. Walk in and he had framed his 4 aces up there. Again, we've made it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's where we were in our peacetime setting pre 9/11. On 9/11, um, I had literally just laid my head down a couple hours before, because we were on day 9 of a 10-day FTX where it was a brigade assault against a built-up city. And so we were going to be the main effort. And going to sleep, I wake up by my RTO, and he goes, "Sir, you need to get to the talk. Somebody just blew up the World Trade Center." And I remember looking at him going, how that does that fit into the scenario? And
Right.
I
Right.
it just didn't make sense. But I saw the serious look in his face. It's like, all right, wake up AK, wake up your platoon sergeants, get everybody mustered up. I have no idea what I don't know yet. Driver's going to be driving me because we're the most geographically we were the farthest away from the talk. I was like, okay, get everybody here, get everybody packed up. I have no idea what's going on, but I'll tell you when I get back. And we launched. And as I was walking into the talk, I was walking through the operations side, and all the commanders had gathered up over on the plan side of the talk. And as you know, the talk is often this low roar of noise because of all the radios and stuff going on.
Right.
And I remember everything starts going in slow motion. Good indicator something screwed up is about to happen. And it went stone quiet. And I was walking, I was looking at the commanders as I was going towards them, and I looked where they were looking over my shoulder off to my right. There was a TV, and as I started watching, I looked, and I saw right as the next tower fell, and it was just this
In the
spike.
talk. So you're in the talk and you see the second tower go down.
And it was, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps again. And I was remembering now, it was like 15 seconds of just nothing. We were sucker punched. But then again, I remember Colonel Thompson, as clear as right now, he said, "All right, men, we're at war. We don't know who with yet, but," and he started issuing orders. And like that, we launched and I got back, uh, when I got back, Charlie Company was already mustered up. So I climbed on the back of the Humvee so I could, tell the guys what I knew and what I didn't know. And I told them what just happened. And I said, we are now, radio silence, no calling. Don't even call your family. We're locked down. We have no idea what's going to happen next, but this is what I know. And one of the worst days of my life, but one of the proudest days of my career was that day, because I saw everybody's face go from peacetime to wartime, and they were okay. And I remember thinking to myself, this is why we'll win. And this is everything that we had done up until this point paying its dividend. They knew we were going to fight and come home. That was the mantra. And
Giving me goosebumps. This, that's like you said, the culture just being so tight. They trusted you and your first sergeant. They knew, and that you guys were so ready. That's a
I should
testament to what the
the
work
next
that you put in.
the week that followed was surreal because we were all, we were DRF1, so we were loaded, ready to go. And but because we were loaded and ready to go, division commander also had us build up, what I Fortress Schofield, if you will, defend the installation. So we built a hard point defense. We had 50 cows on gates. We had snipers in Overwatch. We had claymores run. We had wire run. We had a lot of stuff that the public couldn't see out in the um, off of the roads. Um, and I remember there was, again, Thompson he took a lot of phone calls from this one woman, you're probably 70 years old, called to complain. They pointed a machine gun at you, and he goes, "Ma'am, were you scared?" Yes, that's their job. So I was like,
So it's so they had your back too. I mean, oh, you're in war. You're at war. We didn't know what was going on. Is this gonna, Pearl Harbor 2.0? Are we gonna be, I've heard stories of 8 hours trying to get everybody back on the installation. Just, that's not Schofield's not the biggest base ever. You've got, a couple single points of entry, and I'm sure as even, everybody's getting full on vehicle searches and everything. So, you know,
yeah, we built sandbag walls for both our search crews and the population, the housing centers right next to the main road there, and then right
Sure.
across the street you're shooting into the airfield. So we have to deconflict our we were running range guards.
Yeah.
It was a defense. During that time, I remember walking as I'm trooping the line with AK, and I had my human moment. I was like shaking my head. I was like, "Why are we doing this?" And we just happened to be walking next to the one of the family, and there was a group of kids that were jumping on a trampoline, and he hits me on the chest. "That's why, sir." I was like, "You're absolutely right, AK. Thanks." Um, yeah, incidentally, AK, unbeknownst to me, years prior, was actually one of my RIs. Uh, so there was one day where I at that time I was dating my wife, and she didn't know much about the military, so she was going through my stuff, and so she was playing um, a video of my Ranger graduation, and I'm in the kitchen, and I hear what I know is his voice. My name is Ranger Acuna, and I'm here. And so as soon as I heard that, I come running out. I hit eject on it, and I'm calling him as I'm running out. And she was like, "I was watching that as I'm running out." And I was like, "AK, be at your house." I run in there, I throw it to his house, I press play. "You were one of my RIs, so if I'm jacked up, it's your fault." He's not. Um,
There's a legacy of that. If Nick Cottrell sees this video, he was an RA. Well, he would say, him and now Sergeant Major Adame were there right before I got there, but there's a couple PLs, Dan Meagle's another one. So there's a history of that, of the Charlie Company, officers and NCOs intertwined with Ranger School RIs.
and what a great history it was. I mean, it was just one more deepening. He was my brother, and every time, I mean, I could call him today, and I haven't seen him physically in a while, but it'd be like yesterday because of.
Yeah.
So I guess and also during that time, it was also interesting is I ended up getting. This is a legacy for the ace. At one point, I had to send AK and my Advon to go to a recon because there was an out of sector mission that we were going to be potentially launched on as part of the war, and so AK and our recon element went forward, and when he came back, we were debriefing with the CG. Um, what our findings were, how ready we would be able to if we had to deploy. And it was a great briefing. At the end, CG tosses him a coin, says, "Great job, AK," and all of that. And so then AK looks at me and kind of give him a grin there, and he's like, "Tell you what, sir." And he walks over and he gives him a coin. "You can have one of ours too." And that's pretty audacious, but it was pretty funny. And then it ended up where after a change of command, after Colonel Thompson, he went up to be at the G3. He said, CG has that prominently front and center on his coin rack. It was audacious, but it's all about the ace. So just spreading the ace.
That's great. That's great. So from there, so you guys are preparing, you're getting ready to go. Did did you deploy with Charlie as the company commander, or did you stay stateside until?
So I ended up changing command. I ended up going to HHC and getting them. Uh, at that time, we were doing a lot of rework, if you will, um, and we had to take care of some problems that needed to be taken care of. So I got my second command with HHC, and after um, doing some work there, we ended up having a bilat with the um, actually the bilat. I stand corrected. The bilat was when we were host for 9/11 with the Australians. They had given us a decoy of a D company of their battalion, and we had sent Bravo company, I think it was. No, it was Bravo company over there. Um, those guys, they said that they had, they called their ambassador and got permission that if we deployed, they would roll with us as part of our task organization. Um, so when I was in HHC, we did a bilat with Japan, and that, but then right after that, I ended up having to change command because my time was up. So
Okay.
right before they ended up starting to mobilize to go to Iraq, I changed command and I went over to the other side of the island for my last part of it when I was doing some ACRC, making sure the National Guard, as they got ramped up for their Iraq tour, was also up to 1020 standards, if you will.
Right, right. So with that being said, did you get, you know, you change command, those guys go to Iraq. Were you in communication with any of those guys? Um,
Yeah,
what
later I
about,
stayed.
go ahead.
No, I stayed in contact with them. Even to this day, many of them. The unfortunate part is, in war you lose men. And they got blooded. The cacti got blooded over there, but relatively less compared to what it could have been. Good. Um, and I think a lot of that was also a testimony to how much we were putting in beforehand to make sure that they were able to fight, win, and come home. Um, they definitely did that last part as best they could. But that still it leaves a hole in your soul when you lose brothers. And so, when as I started tracking some of those news there, I did my best that I could to reach out to the brothers and also the surviving kin, um, as best you can. But then when I would also do stuff as I'm flipping through the magazines, and I would see that the infamous picture of a Charlie 235 Humvee, completely entrenched in a washout. I was like, oh, that's not a good look. But no, it is what it is. But in the time I saw the cacti, I would definitely reach out and say, hey guys, check this out.
Yeah.
And
So
then since then, I've also stayed in contact with a few of them and helped them as they navigate following on, change of mission once they hang up the uniform. What next? So
talk a little bit about that. When you said you're helping your former soldiers or just cacti members from the association. Talk a little bit about what you're doing with people that are in transition.
so it started, right now my business is as a business coach, but it even started before then where I was part of um, a nonprofit called Reboot VA, and it was started by one of my classmates. It's intended to help uniform members change mission. And more often than not, most of us are really better at being employers than employees. We just don't know it yet
Yeah.
because the structure of our minds, how we do problem solving, how leadership is the single best, most deployable skill that we've got, but we don't give, everybody does it in the military. No one does it outside of the military.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of managers, not a lot of good leaders. And so Reboot VA was stood up explicitly to help people start their own businesses, start launching their businesses. And so I was part of that. And with that, my coaching business, I'm a business coach that works with, any type of small or medium sized business. But I also have a specific line of effort where it is intended to help, if you're going to become an employee, let's get you good on your resume. How do you translate I used to hunt bad guys and shoot them in the lips to something that's employable? That's a bit difficult.
That's not in line one or two, right?
Well, I mean, ACAP, they give a very generic, but it doesn't best position what our guys can actually do.
Yeah.
So I help them with getting better resumes, working with the interview skills to make sure that when they're interviewing, how they can walk out of there with that same level of confidence of, yeah, I got this. It's cocky, but there have been times where I've, even in my own young part of my career, I would walk in when I was competing against a panel, and there's like four people who have also made the down select to interview. And I went in before them. I walked out and was like, y'all can leave. I already own this. It's cocky, I know, but I want our guys to have that same level of confidence that they know that they owned it. And then, of course, letters of recommendation, helping them out as best we can there, lead block where we can, introducing them because I am a business coach. I have a network of other businesses that I'm working with. So as I start to see, openings and I remember, hey, this guy had that resume, I'll reach out to him and say, are you still looking? Hey, let me introduce that, like handshake between the two of y'all and see if that makes magic. Because there's, you know, it, there's all too often a lot of our soldiers, they they can't really translate infantry skills into what makes sense in the business world, and ACAP doesn't help them. So that's what we help. We
Yeah.
focus on the leadership, focus on the management, manage the resources, manage a schedule, lead the people, and focus a lot on discipline. One of my really good friends, when he went and he landed a very select job with a major corporation that was in computer. It was in ITs, and he flat out said, "He's like, I don't know IT," in the interview. And they said, "Well, we're not hiring you for IT. We're hiring you for a directorship, so
Right.
that's okay." And so then he asked him one of the things afterwards, doing a forensics on it, and it's like, "So, what were the elements you were looking for?" And they said, "Well, one of the things that we really appreciated about you being in the military and the discipline that you showed is you'll show up." He goes, "What do you mean by that?" I go, "Well, on any given day, we have to account for a 10% that are going to be, I'm sick today.
Right.
Just help out. Like, we know you're not going to do that. And that's important to us. So that level of commitment. So those are the types of things that I try and really get our guys to focus on. That's the sales point. And then I also have worked on the resilience side, um, doing a lot of counseling where, you know, we've stared into the abyss. We've seen, done, participated in some potentially horrible things, and those are going to leave marks on people. And so because of that, um, how do you how do you make that part of your life? How do you
Yeah.
you're never going to get rid of it. You're never going to expunge it, but how do you get to that true next, change of mission, next chapter of your life with this now being part of it?
From the association and how has it impacted you, from the last, you said '03, so it's been, 22 years. That's more than 20 years. So obviously it had that impact on you. And being a company commander, it is the first true lead. I mean, it's your organization. That's the first time it's yours and you can do with it as, you and your first sergeant, as you said, you first sergeant Acuna. So just talk about that with the association, how it affected you, and then, um, where you could see soldiers just dialing into it.
So I'd say for me, the the power of the association is one catharsis. Um, when Yeah, I mean, we've been when people say we were a nation at war, we weren't a nation at war. We were an army and a Marine Corps at war. Um, tying a ribbon around a tree and once per year, ringing a bell and saying the names of people that perished at 9/11 doesn't mean that you're at war, because there wasn't the all-in sacrifice that, I mean, when you think back to World War II, everyone redefined their lives. society changed. Vietnam, um, it was an upheaval moment. It was really the conscience of the nation being engaged in the war. And um, this long war that we've just been in, we were an Army and a Marine Corps at war. If you get a chance to read the book Tribe by Sebastian Younger, it's a
Great.
great book.
Love that book. I've read it
And
twice.
well, it's funny because for me, um, I didn't realize that I needed to read it until a friend of mine who, he ended up, I hadn't talked to, he moved, it was a colleague of mine when I was working at the laboratory. He moved back out to the West Coast, and, it was like 4 or 5 years later that, he cold calls me and was like, "Hey, have you ever read this book?" I was like, "No, I haven't." The next door I get it by Amazon delivery is like, "Well, shit, now I got to read it." Uh, and it was profound because he was also the one that realized that, when I was at the laboratory, surrounded by civilians, I was literally one of one that was in uniform and one of four that had ever worn the uniform. And I had developed an ulcer. And he's like, "Wait a minute, you mean you were hunting bad guys for a living, and that was less stressful than working here?" And it's like, yeah, I didn't really think about it, but yeah, it was because I was on an island. We had broken the tribe. And so reading that book, it got me to really understand we are at our best when we feel like we are a part of our tribe. We are at our worst when we're not, when we're isolated. And so I would say the first and foremost thing that the association provides is the tribe. It connects us with, as you said at the beginning here, it connects us with our Vietnam forebears and the burden that they had to carry because their nation didn't welcome them home very well. Now, I don't think that was necessarily personal because the nation didn't know how to welcome home people. It was
Right.
breaking nation.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact that for those veterans, it it seemed very personal. They took it very personal, and they had to bear that burden with a group of people that had no idea what it was truly like. Well, you fast forward even to today, the guys that served in this long war, um, how do you explain to somebody who, "Oh, I almost joined." There's a lot of almosts. You didn't. And how do you explain to them what it was really like n beyond what a movie shows them, because the movie does not justice for them. So, the association gets us back with other people that know. It gets us back to our tribe so that we have a sense of belonging, and it brings out the best in us. The second thing is it provides, you know, as a business coach, this is vital. It's a network. Use it. It is a weapon system. Use it to effect. And so, um, you know, whether you're looking for a job, whether you're looking to hire somebody, whether you're just wanting a sounding board, hey, I'm thinking of doing something like this, and tell me if I'm, smoking peyote. Is this a bad idea? Use the network, because there's just a wealth of experience there, and we can talk to each other in a candid way that you're not going to find that outside.
Right.
And I'd say that the third thing is it's also a chance for people to provide their service. I got I got I purchased, it was only like $15 thing, but it was, somebody had, working on their laser printing and wood crafting, and they came up with a nice, plaque. So I purchased it. Helps them out, but it's one that I can end up putting on my wall proudly.
Yeah.
Uh, and the little things that we can help out each other with that. Right now there's somebody that was able to make some new shirts and new coins. Yeah, put that stuff up with pride. Um, Looking over your shoulder, you've got your me wall built up there. Yep.
Other side. Sorry, mirror. Yeah, this is my cacti plaque right here. Hard to do this.
Yep. But put that stuff up there, and so it's the association is that it brings our tribe together that we can do a lot of things that it's difficult to do in the outside world because they just don't understand us.
Yeah. That's just so good. I I'm recently out, so I all those sentiments that you're speaking of, um, I feel that. So, if someone were to reach out to you from the association or somebody that's in Cacti, maybe he's looking, hey, what's it like out there? What would be the best way for them to get a hold of you? And then you kind of already gave some advice, but what's like one big piece of advice that you'd give to those guys?
So first off, I would absolutely love for people to be able to reach out to me if I can be of any assistance to lead block for them or just a sounding board. Absolutely, give me a call. I kept my 808 number because I've had that and everybody knows it. So it's my um it I've had that because it becomes the anchor. Um, my email is um reach out. As far as the advice that I would give is I would say there's two pieces to it. One is um, never lose sight of where you're going. Um, through the rest of my career after I've left Cacti, I ended up having to sideline some of my career and have change of mission early because of some injuries. And that forced me to, for the first time in my adult life, to actually think about what happens next. Don't put that conversation off too long. Have your plan. At most, you're going to spend 35 years in the army and they're going to kick you out. Have a plan.
Hmm.
You've earned a piece of this land because you've done what 99% of Americans haven't done. What are you going to do with your piece that you've earned? So have your plan. So once you've got your plan, keep your eyes fixed on it and make it happen. Second part of that would be also never forget where you came from. Being a soldier, you're always either too hot or too cold. You're always too hungry, too thirsty, tired, achy, and yet you keep driving on. You keep taking the one extra step. You realize that the mind will give out long before the heart. If you just take the extra step, if you have the heart to take the extra step, you'll tap into another, 80% of energy that you didn't even know that you had. And we have gone through a cauldron that has tested that through forge, beating, tempering. We've gone through that purification process to find out who we are and what we're capable of that a lot of people never have. So if you know where you're going and you know where you come from, you can make it happen. Um, and I guess I lied. I'm going to put one third piece of information on there.
That's good. That's all right. We're looking for all of it.
You're not alone. Um, whether that is in the middle of the night, you need to slay dragons because it's just going to be one of those nights. Give me a call. We'll slay it together. You're not alone. Whether you need somebody to, as we were talking about with the association, hey, I've got an idea. Somebody worked this problem with me on a business problem. Okay, you're not alone. Whether it is, um, you know, any reminder of who you are or where you're going, your brothers will help you with that. Give them a call. So I guess that's the third piece of advice that I'd strap on the first two.
It's just so good. I think that's the biggest thing that this association has done in the past and will continue to do, and we're trying to continue that on. So, Rich, I just thank you so much for offering up your time and being able to tell these stories, right? Like that's the point of this is we want to continue that legacy, and whether it was 60 years ago, 20 years ago, yesterday, there's stories and there's impacts that can be had. So,
And I give
thanks.
you one more interesting still. While we were on timeout there with the internet there, I took the opportunity to go into in the hallway and I looked over. I kept a copy of this. We put it in the Legacy Hall too in the Charlie hallway there. Um, Shortly after 9/11, it was like 9/13 or something. and I had to go get more barrier material. So I was going to the local hardware store, Ace, and as I was going through there, I felt this little tug of on the bottom of my BDU blouse, and I looked down, and it was this little girl. She was 8 years old at the time, and she looked me. Thank you for keeping me safe. And I was a little bit confused because people don't realize, but before 9/11, you know, we were kept at arm's bay by society. People didn't approach soldiers very much. And so I was a little bit taken aback by that. And I look over, and her dad was, he made eye contact with me, and he said, "We're from New York. And so we're stuck here right now because no flights. And all we've had is bad information that's going on over there. And so she's been having nightmares. So when I saw you here, I pointed to you and I said, that's a man that's going to, keep the monsters away." And so she wanted to come up and say something. And so I said, thank you. And I started walking away. And then I went and I came back and I gave her an ace.
Hmm.
And I told her the story about what the ace is about, where it was first intended to create fear in our adversary. It was a psychological weapon, and it had come to the next part where, making it all about the ace, it had become a huge piece of motivation for us. And I wanted her to have that as a token, and we went our way. A year later, I ended up getting a letter that had come down through from the CG, where uh, that father had written and photocopied the ace and written a letter up to the CG saying, "I don't remember the captain's name, but here's what he looked like, and here's what he told us about this. And I needed you to know what kind of officers that you had in your unit, because what he did that day was what started off as creating fear for the enemy took fear from my little girl, and she's been taking it to show and tell. We framed it and put it above her bed, and it has been an absolute lifesaver for an 8-year-old little girl." So when I got that, and I got the attaboy from the CG, I was like, no, this was huge. This is what the ace is all about. So I took the original letter, handed it over. They put it up on the wall. I took a photocopy for my own records of that, but I wanted to share that story with you as well, because that's the impact that we have. We don't
Yeah.
realize.
That's such an amazing story. And I've got a few of those ace cards around here somewhere. We that was a legacy that continued at least until 2016. And hopefully someone from Charlie that's watching this that's still there can let us know that that's still happening. But yeah, a lot of times on a Friday afternoon before everybody got sent home, those ace cards were getting passed out for um, just like you said, motivation and giving everybody their moment, right? Giving them their moment. So, um, well, thank you so much, Rich. This has been awesome. We what we'll do is hopefully get this out, and we'll cut it up and send some really good clips onto the association, and I'll make sure that when we put it on YouTube that your email and phone number doesn't get out there either.
Fair enough.
But but yeah, just so great talking to you, and yeah, I just appreciate you jumping on.
Sure. I appreciate it. Mahalo. Aloha.
Yeah. Talk to you soon, Rich. Thanks.